Hey everybody, Professor Snart checking in yet again as we keep zooming through our online 1102 course here. We've just moved past Unit 8, which was the revision for the first essay, so we've kind of done two essays, but really just one and then some revision in addition to that first one. And now we really get into the final few units for the course, even though they unfold over a few weeks, so it's not like we're back to back to back like we've been up to this point. And so it's good. This is one of those good places here, if you aren't doing this on a regular basis, is to check into the due dates and just see how these final units break up here and how the pieces fit together. So we're working on the final essay, which is assigned in Unit 9, but not due in Unit 9. So this longer or final essay, it actually isn't really much longer than what we worked on, but it has a few more component pieces, and there's a few more things that we do in terms of the course to get us to that final essay. So review those due dates, and again, just check, excuse me, take a look at how the units break down in terms of these final ones that we're looking at. Notice especially that the final unit, Unit 11, has a couple of due dates, or a set of due dates, related to the opportunity for a peer exchange that we have towards the end of the course. But for now, let's just take a quick look at Unit 9. There's some quick feedback from Unit 8. So again, some video feedback here so you can kind of see how things are working. So obviously take a look at that. And then we do the final reading for the class, which is Arthur Miller's play Death of a Salesman, pretty common play. You may have run into it before. It's fairly long, but it reads quite quickly. Many of the pages are quick exchanges of dialogue back and forth between people, so it's sort of intimidating once you start flipping the pages, but you'll notice that it actually goes quite quickly. There's some good film versions, which I encourage you to watch. It's not a problem, but don't substitute watching for reading the play, since it's the play that you'll have to be writing about, more than likely, not one of the film versions. And no film version that I know of adheres directly to the text of the play. The most common ones do a pretty good job and feature, incredible actors doing the parts, but don't necessarily provide all of the text. Sometimes it's cut for just so it runs in a particular time on TV, or a movie or whatever. So by all means, watch. You will obviously get a much better sense of the visual aspect of the play, and it's easier to figure out or remember which character is which can be confusing when you read a play if you don't already kind of know which character, is what name corresponds to what character. Is that the brother, or is that the father, or whatever's going on? I remember when I would read plays for the first time, I would take a little index card, and you'll find the list of the characters at the start of the play. I'd often just make a note of the major ones, like Biff is the brother, the older brother, Happy's the younger brother, Willy Loman's the father, blah, blah, blah. And that way you could sort of have that as you're flipping through, and if you get kind of lost and forget, you just check the card. Makes it go a little bit faster, since you're not, flipping back to figure out what's going on, and you really don't want to read too much without really knowing what's happening or who's saying what. Okay, so obviously the reading portion then is part of what you're doing for Unit 9. And there's an initial kind of a discussion board here, which is really sort of a brainstorming session. You're identifying 3 or 4 themes that you think are important in the play. And so you might, in fact, write on one of those themes for your final essay, although you don't have to. But it's also going to be useful just to see what themes, other people have come up with. There's nothing to say that you might notice a theme in somebody else's post that you hadn't noticed in the play. And that actually becomes what you write about for the final essay. So, pardon me, the kind of discussion part of the discussion board here, or at least reading what other people have had to say, is actually one of the most important parts of this particular discussion board. Next, you'll find the final essay assignment. Again, it's not due right here, but all of the details for what the essay requirements or assignment requirements are here. So there's a kind of a long, laundry list of things that you need to attend to But like I said a lot of times before, there's nothing really new here. And even like I said, the length of this essay is about 6 pages or so. So it's not like we're suddenly doing a 10 or a 20-page research paper. It's a little bit longer than what we've done before, but maybe by a page or a page and a half. So it's not like all of a sudden I'm expecting this great big thesis on Death of a Salesman, for example. Really more important than the length part of it is the secondary source part of it, which is ultimately the application of all of the research rules and guidelines that we've learned as part of 1102, the research course. So what you need, and I'm reading directly from the assignment here, so you can obviously read it and refer to it to make sure that you're on track. You need a minimum of 4 appropriate secondary sources. So first of all, you've got to know what a secondary source is. It's not your primary source like the play or one of the short stories. It's a discussion of a scholarly or literary discussion of the primary source that you're talking about. It's not just on a related idea or some kind of tangential text or whatever. So you have to show me that you understand that. You need 4 of them. At least one has to be a book source, so a physical book that you can actually pick up. You'll probably find at the library. Again, there's information on how to find these. The easiest thing to do is use the COD library website to search for print material or material in the collection, and just do a subject search like Miller, Arthur, or even Death of a Salesman, and you'll probably come up with books not by that author and not the actual play itself. This is why you do a subject search, but books about those things, whether it's the playwright or the play itself. And again, I'm just using the play as an example. You might write about a different primary text, like one of the short stories we've read, or a combination of primary texts. And so again, your secondary searches will be different depending on that, but still subject search by author or by work title is going to be your best bet. So you need at least one book source, secondary source. At least one database source. This is easy. We've done these before for previous units. You integrated probably a database source for Unit 8. So this is just rehearsing what we've done already. So that's 2 of the 4. The last 2 can be appropriate sources of your choice, either database or other print secondary sources, not whatever you find through Google Books or Google or Yahoo or Wikipedia or any other of those web-based kinds of sources. And here's where I'm going to say it, and this is what I'm going to refer you back to if there's a problem at the end of it, is that really the most cut and dry and one of the most fundamental components of what you've got to learn in 1102 as the research course is what secondary material is and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. So you'll notice that the grading or the point value for this final essay is quite high. It's sort of a high stakes test. And that is because, not because it's so difficult and thus you should be rewarded for doing this difficult work, but honestly because it is so right or wrong at this point and something that you really need to know to move past 1102. So mistakes with sources like the wrong number of them, the wrong kind if you've just used random websites, that will probably result in a failing grade for the essay, right? Regardless of what you've actually written about. So the content of the essay is secondary maybe to your use of sources. Basically, did you learn the research part of the research course? So probably a failing grade on the paper, and because that is weighted so heavily, it really hurts your grade in the overall course as well. But the glass half full of that is that it's pretty easy to get this stuff right. It's laid out right here. It repeats stuff we've already done in the course, so if you've made mistakes, I've probably mentioned those to you already. So you can really use the high stakes to your advantage because it's pretty easy to do in as much as you're just following models or following information that is laid out for you right here in the course. So really make sure that you understand the secondary source requirements. Communicate with me if you have any questions. Even if you found a source and you're not 100% sure if it's going to work, just let me know what you found and I can give you the thumbs up or the thumbs sideways to find something else. So that's one of the most important pieces that we get early on in the assignment here. But, you know, at the end of it is one of the first things I look for in terms of, has the student learned and now applied the stuff that we've been covering in the class? And that takes us back to the very first thing that I said in the course, is that for any assessment device, like an assignment like this, which is kind of the primary one for our course, this final essay, again, I'm not looking for something mysterious or magical or kind of, did you figure it out on your own? It really is just, did the student apply stuff that we've learned in the course in the assessment situation or the writing situation? So really try to keep that in mind. Okay, there's some library assistance stuff that I provided here, but then the topic guidelines. Unlike the previous essay where I gave you a series of prompts to work with, like expectations or stereotypes or whatever they were, here I'm not providing a prompt for you to work with. Part of what we're doing here is developing your own topic, which is more difficult to start, but I think ends up producing a better paper essay because you're more interested in it, or it's more derived from your sort of what you personally noticed in the works that we've read. So obviously it's still a literary research topic of the kind that we've written already. It's not like you're now doing an essay on gun control or pollution or some random thing that you could research, but that's not within the scope of what we're dealing with here. So your literary research paper must cover a work or works of literature, quote unquote, at least one that we've read in the course. So the play, one of the short stories, but the other one, if you choose to cover two, could be external to our course. So you could approach this as a comparison paper and try to compare a theme or a character in the play, for example, to a theme or character in a book that you're familiar with, or a movie that you've just seen, or fill in the blank. Now, you don't have to do that comparison. You could just focus on one primary text from our course. The play would be an obvious choice. It's new, there's lots to write about, so there's lots going on. There's lots of secondary source material, so you're not stuck trying to find things. So it is a good idea to cover the play, although you're not strictly required to. Again, at least one of the works you cover as your primary text has to be from our course. But if you choose to cover two, that other one doesn't have to be from our course. It could be, but it doesn't have to be. So again, be sure that you're really clear on the secondary source requirements and on the basic topic guidelines here. And so now you can sort of see how this initial discussion board dealing with Death of a Salesman really can help to brainstorm some potential themes that might in fact become one of the topics or the topic that you write about for your essay. Obviously you'll move from topic to thesis somewhere in the writing process, but don't be too concerned with having a thesis just yet. It's really enough for this unit to develop a sense of some of the themes in the play and to begin thinking about a possible topic. And a topic is very broad. You know, the theme of sacrifice, the theme of change, again, expectations might be one to pursue. Again, you can't repeat from the first essay, but certainly pursuing a similar theme in a different work is something that might at least give you enough to begin the writing process and work towards that final essay. Okay, so that's a lot to digest. Even though there's really not a lot of work for this particular unit, it's a lot to think about and make sure that you really understand and have a clear sense of the guidelines before moving forward. But hopefully they're laid out in a pretty systematic way here. And again, you're not writing the essay here. You're not even refining the thesis so it's in its perfect polished form. You're just kind of getting the writing process going with a sense of topic, what texts you might deal with, and then you can move forward from there. You can outline, brainstorm, even do some of the research. All right. So we're early on in the process, but this is precisely the place where you really want to get momentum moving forward. Okay, that's a lot. If you have any questions, be sure to be in touch with me, and otherwise I'll see everyone soon.